رسول الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدني يعني أن تفتح لي هذه الفرصة ربما للمرة الثانية خلال فترة جديدة أن أقدم عرضا لجامعة المال العزيز معهد الاقتصاد الإسلامي للإخوة الأفاضل. يعني طلبوا مني أن أقدم هذا العرض، وطبعا كما تعلمون هذا اليوم كان يعني ينبغي أن نقدم فيه الأخ الدكتور محمد الشيباني، ولكن ظروف خاصة به أعتذر عن ذلك، فكان التقديم من نصيبي. فأرجو أن تكون هذه فرصة جيدة لكي أرى أو أتلقى على وجهة نظركم فيما يتعلق بهذا المشروع بعنوان Basic Adaptation of Istisna Hedge Investment, a Recipe of Industrial Development. أنا هتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية بعد كده. I have discussed this proposal in a conference which was held at Qasim University about less than a month ago. There was a conference there, and it was invited by the Saudi Society for Finance Investment. The proposal was very welcome there, and I also received some comments from the audience. So I thought this would be another opportunity for me to see how it will be received at the end. The main contents of the presentation are as follows. I'm going to start with an introduction first, and the next part will be about basic capital financing and the developmental challenge in the developing countries. Then I'm going to move to how ISMO links to. By the way, I have moved to the next slide.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. How ISMO links to VC financing. ISMO is an abbreviation for Istisna Hedged Musharaka, or it could be Mudaraba as well. The MU at the end could be Musharaka or Mudaraba. And so it's Istisna Hedged or ISMO. That is a product which I published about 4 years ago in ISRA. If you know ISRA, what is ISRA mean? ISRA International Journal of Finance. Now I'm just trying to show how this issue can be linked to venture capital financing. I developed issue into another concept which I'm calling the VC Ishin program. Ishin stands for Istisna Hedge Investment. So I'm just moving from the concept of Musharaka and Mudaraba to investment. So in other words, it's Istisna Hedge Investment linked to venture capital financing. Balanced growth strategy, this is a concept I'm going to discuss in due course. And we're going to end up with some conclusions. Good. The next slide. Now, to justify the said proposal, let me first make the point, which is very commonly known to most people who are interested in this area, that small and medium enterprises, including also newly emerging enterprises and startups, these are often denied traditional banking finance due to two main problems. First, the small and medium enterprises and also startups and so on, they always lack sufficient collateral and reliable track records. In addition to that, because the capital resource of the SME is very small, they have also got very small liquidation value. So at a traditional bank, we always look at the net worth of the corporation. If the net worth is too small, therefore the business will be too small, and this also reflects into the amount of finance that a traditional bank can give. So this all joins together to justify the fact that SMEs are suffering when they deal with conventional banking. They always get peanuts or even nothing. So venture capital financing has emerged to fill that gap for SMEs. And it has not been portrayed in the literature as an ideal financing course for SMEs. More generally, we can define venture capital financing as a wide range of financial vehicles aimed at generating profit from the careful management of risks associated with equity financing of small and medium enterprises. The whole idea is to transform creative ideas which are offered by entrepreneurs, transforming them into gigantic multi-billion corporations. As a matter of fact, the exciting example, like for example the Microsoft Corporation or the Apple Corporation or Compaq and so on, all of these gigantic companies in the US experience, they have all emerged from very small or startup organizations and developed into this large volume through venture capital financing. I'm not going to get into detail about the different schools of opinion that tend to prevail in the American School of Thought and the European School of Thought or the Asian School of Thought. But all in all, venture capital financing has got common features, common properties. Perhaps the American model is the most widespread. Next slide. So what is this problem now? What are we trying to address here? The question I'm addressing is how could the less developed countries reap the benefits of venture capital financing? And the characteristic challenge which developed countries face could be summarized in 2 points. First, most developed countries are facing the challenge of building core industrial capacities on sound grounds of sustainable productivity growth. The second challenge is generating increasing numbers of productive enterprises at national level. And therefore, this needs an appropriate adaptation of venture capital financing to suit less developed countries. But at this point, I just want to draw attention at a very important strategic disparity between the strategic orientation of venture capital financing for developed as opposed to less developed countries. For the more developed countries, they always take for granted the stage of industrial development. So development is not an issue in itself, it's all right, because the countries are already developed. So the idea is to try to profit, to generate sustainable profit, long-term capital gains from the selection of a few enterprises and the building of venture capital program on the basis of those few enterprises, and then repeating the process again and again every time. This is the whole exercise which characterizes venture capital financing in the more developed countries. But in the less developed countries, the challenge is to promote industrial activity because there isn't a core industrial capacity that will exist on sound grounds of sustainable productive growth. And so the challenge is how to build that core capacity. So the difference between the less developed and more developed versions of industrial financing is the fact that for the more developed countries, the challenge is how to nurture a few industrial enterprises gradually and qualify them until they make an initial public offering, and then the venture capital financing will quit from that program and make capital gain out of it. So it's an idea of getting into an experience and exiting from it, getting into an experience and exiting from it every time. For the less developed countries, the idea is how to create an increasing number of productive enterprises at the national level. Not that you want to get into a certain experience and to get out of it. And that's why I'm saying we need an appropriate adaptation of VC convention practices to suit the less developed countries. Please let's go to the next slide. Again, it might be familiar to most of you that there are different forms of financing. For example, the business angels form, which is a kind of informal supply of private equity for existing SMEs. There's also the corporate VC activity financing, which depends on certain big rich cash-rich enterprises to satisfy certain strategy of their own. There's also the social venture capital financing model, which addresses community needs. But the one which is most researched and most formally organized is the venture capital funds. The venture capital funds are the most researched and the most formally organized forms of venture capital financing, and that's why I'm focusing on this model of venture capital financing. So the CVFs are closed-end funds sharing four main properties in common. First, they are equity financing, giving of equity. Second, they target long-term returns. So they are basically long-term investment in newly emerging projects. The fourth property is that they offer managerial assistance to talented enterprises. And the capital gain is the ultimate objective of CVFs. Either through IPOs, which is American model, or maybe through selling out the enterprises to an existing big corporation. This is the European model. So this is, in a nutshell, these are the main properties of CVFs. So the hallmark of VC financing, let's go to the next slide. The hallmark of VC financing is the management of information asymmetry, which is moral hazard and adverse selection. And this reflects in certain extent in the selection of investment deals, which can be summarized in 9 stages as follows. So these 9 stages, they summarize the process whereby venture capital financing gets into the business of financing SMEs and making profit out of that. I'm not going to speak in detail about these 9 stages because I don't want the time to run out before I get into the core of the matter. But generally, there are 9 stages. The first stage is fundraising. The idea of fundraising is to define a certain program of venture capital financing and to propose it for institutional investors, mostly like insurance companies and pension funds, as well as commercial banking maybe, proposing this program of venture capital financing and raising capital from investors. This is the first point. The second point is lead generation. So once the program has been advertised and a number of institutional investors have decided to contribute to it, the next stage is to generate deals. This is the most important point. Lead generation means inviting as many entrepreneurs as possible, whether they are startups or SMEs or emerging enterprise, whatever the case, inviting them to try to offer their business concepts. So a fundamental database is formed as a result of inviting such a large number of enterprises to come and to compete for venture capital financing. So having developed the database, then an initial screening will take place. This initial screening will scrutinize the offers which are offered by the enterprises in terms of project concept or entrepreneurial skills, like track record of the entrepreneur for making the job, or maybe market assessment for the products which are produced by those entrepreneurs, as well as the exit strategy, because the CVF will always bear in mind that at some stage they will have to exit to sell the enterprises for profit and to make a profit out of that. So these are the main things upon which the initial screening will be done. Having finished this stage, then there is another stage which is called due diligence. In the due diligence stage, some additional information that small percentage of initial screening will now be exposed to due diligence to assess the risks which are associated with those enterprises. And the idea is not to reject them, but at least to see how they can be handled. So these are the four main stages before any additional processes are adopted. Now, the fifth stage is where the venture capital, what they call the VCF, venture capital fund, will get into the process of valuation. Valuation means finding an entry price into the entrepreneurship, making a valuation for the existing assets, and this valuation will reflect into a certain proportion of capital which will be added to that enterprise, and that proportion of capital will represent the amount of equity which the VCF will include into that corporation. So when there's an exit at the very end, then the exit will bear in mind that the entry price was so and so, and so whatever has been gained through venture capital financing will be considered profit for the VCF. The seventh stage is structure. Structure is a legal process. It consists of the various conventions or agreements or covenants or whatever, which will be signed between the parties, between the entrepreneurs themselves, the investors, the investees, and so this structure will be binding between all parties. Syndication is where the VCF will invite other VCFs to get into that business, so as to diversify the risk. And then comes the stage of monitoring. Of course, the VCF has to do a lot of monitoring to make sure that the money that is being provided for this entrepreneur is exploited properly. There is no wastage, and everything is going according to plan and so on. So there will be monitoring in terms of periodical reports, or sometimes even some members of the VCF will be appointed as members of the board of directors of those firms. It happens sometimes the chief executive officer of a certain company will be fired, and someone else will be appointed in place and so on. So monitoring is a very long process. So after monitoring comes the exit. So when those selected companies prove quite productive and they have acquired a strong market position, then they will be sold out either through IPO, I said, or maybe to another big corporation. And this marks the exit of the CF. The exit means getting the capital gain. And so this process will be repeated again. Going to the next stage. Now, apparently, the 9 processes you have mentioned above, they are not all relevant to the less developed countries. The less developed countries are not interested in this process. They're interested in, as I said earlier, they're interested in building core industrial capacities. I have done two or three actually, three slides backwards. Okay? The problem, just to remind you of the problem, or three slides backwards. So the problem of the European country is to build core industrial capacity on sound grounds of sustainable profit, and to generate increasing number of productive entrepreneurs at the national level. And therefore, coming back to where we stopped last time, which is balanced versus unbalanced strategy. Coming back to the point where I stopped last time. Now, looking at the objectives of the less developed countries and the disparity between the strategy of the developed countries and less developed countries, it appears that the real role that venture capital financing can play in the industrialization of less developed countries ought to be perceived within the context of rival industrial strategies. There are 2 rival industrial strategies in the literature of industrialization implementation of less developed countries. One of them is called the balanced growth strategy, and the other is called unbalanced growth strategy. I will see how these two strategies can help us to devise a certain approach for venture capital financing in less developed countries. The first one, which is the balanced growth strategy, has been advocated by Ranger Nerks and Paul Ronson Stein-Roden. The other, which is the unbalanced growth strategy, has been advocated by Albert Hirschman and others. Now, without getting the details about what these things mean, I think they are self-explanatory. It's obvious that the balanced growth strategy is better, because the balanced growth strategy assumes that there is a possibility for diversifying the industrial sector in terms of a large number of small enterprises, and those small enterprises will grow gradually and consist, and after they grow gradually, they will form the core capacity of our basic countries not to develop. So it starts from balanced growth in the sense that there are various corporations, various firms, various establishments, various companies in different sectors of the economy, and they will all grow together. But the problem with the balanced growth strategy, it assumes that capital is not scarce. It assumes that there is ample capital to supply the to finance the balanced growth strategy. And because of this problem, the unbalanced growth strategy appeared. It said that because of capital scarcity, you can start from an unbalanced growth strategy, just starting from a few firms, 3 or 4, and then through the process of time, these 3 or 4 firms will generate more and more industrial activity. Obviously, the first one is better. The balanced growth strategy is obviously the ideal option for the industrialization policy. But the problem is capital scarcity. So how to address the problem of capital scarcity in the developed countries? I will now show how the proposal I'm giving, which is ISHMO, how this proposal can resolve the problem of capital scarcity. So in order to address this problem, I have first of all to introduce what ISHMO means. This is not his musharaka, or it's not his mudaraba, how it links to basic capital financing. And then later on, I'm going to show how it can be developed into ISHM, which is now hedge investment. Now, ISHMO has got a basic structure which has been discussed in a paper which I published in the year 2013 in ISRA. The whole idea is to redefine ISNA as an effective hedge against equity risks of profit and loss modes. We know that profit and loss modes are highly restrictive. They are not developed to their full potential in the Islamic financial industry, mainly because of moral hazard risk and adverse selection risk and market risk. All of these kinds of risks, they all justify whole Islamic banking practice nowadays, and it has been doing this for maybe more than 30 years or more than 40 years. They tend to depend mostly on debt financing, and PLS financing is highly restricted. Actually, because of this problem, ISHMO has been defined to solve those kind of risks, and to let PLS be practiced, particularly in the industrial sector, to be practiced with the least possible risks. This has been a real challenge, and I wish it had been properly addressed in the paper published in the year 2013. I introduced two models of ISHMO. One of them is an isolated transaction, and the other is a market organized structure. But in both cases, ISHMO achieves two objectives. First, it achieves two objectives not written in the slide here. I'm going just to say them out of my memory. They are not written down in the slides. The two objectives which ISHMO satisfies is, first of all, to let the ISNA financing be specialized mainly as a hedging instrument against PLS risks, rather than being itself practiced as a financing product. We know that ISNA is a financing product. the way SISNA is practiced as a financing product suffers from all the problems that I alluded to later, that it's a purely debt structured instrument, and it does not really satisfy the needs of small and medium enterprises for the financing of industrial activity. Actually, small and medium enterprises in the Muslim countries, as well as in developing countries, they all suffer from this problem. They cannot get liquid capital. Particularly Islamic banks Islamic banks are just like traditional banks. They also depend on collateral, depend on security, and so on. So in order to break this problem, ISMO has been defined in such a way as to let this SISNA financing act only as a hedge, not as a financing instrument. Okay? So given this background, ISMO itself, as I said, can either be an isolated product, like this one, this is an isolated product, or it can be practiced into an organized banking structure. In this presentation, I'm going to use the other version, where ISMO is adopted within an organized market structure. When ISMO is defined within an organized market structure, it achieves two objectives. First, it exploits the economies of information and external economies of the country's industrial sector. And second, it generates continuous flow of support for its SISNA hedges for PA financing against default. Okay? Now, this is isolated ISMO basic structure. Please forgive me if I spend time trying to explain this. I'm going to miss the point because there are lots of things to be said. So let me assume that you have already studied it, and I want to go further from here to speak about how ISMO leads to basic financing. Unfortunately, I'm providing too much information in a short period of time, and I'm talking quickly perhaps just try to fit in with the time. Because unless you are familiar with ISMO, maybe you will not be familiar with the
we are not familiar, so this will not be helpful unless you explain it.
Absolutely not.
Dr. Sef, they are saying that they are not familiar with it.
All right, then if I explain it, then we are going to spend more time. So ISMO is as follows. It starts from this broken line, broken arrow. Actually, now I'm putting in front of me ISMO basic structure, the diagram. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
The diagram, ISMO basic structure, which has got certain colors into it. I'm having that one. Okay? So the process starts from a framework agreement between the SANIA is the company. The SANIA could be a small enterprise, or as well, it could be a large corporation as well. ISMO is not designed specifically to SMEs. It can also be adopted by big corporations. But of course, the main advantage of ISMO is that it helps SMEs. That's why I'm focusing on this point. But let us now define it generally. ISMO can be utilized by small companies as well as big companies. So the process starts from a SANIA. A SANIA could be an SME or a large corporation. There should be a framework agreement between a bank, a commercial bank, of course, an Islamic commercial bank, an agreement which says that having a word into it. Okay, whenever the SANIA gets into a certain business, maybe it's having an application from other clients to produce certain goods, then there's a framework agreement between him and the bank in order to finance the SISNA hedge. What is SISNA hedge? The SISNA hedge comes in the next stage. The next stage is that the SANIA will come with a mustasna. The mustasna is the other party who needs a good. Any corporation demanding the industrial product. They will sign between themselves and a SISNA contract. But this SISNA contract is not a financial contract. It's just a hedge. Just like a forward contract in the conventional sense. You know what the forward contract means in the conventional sense? Yeah, it's just like a SISNA hedge. Okay? So there's no money. No party is paying any money to another party. It's just an agreement. It's just a binding agreement, okay? Now, this binding agreement needs a guarantor, which is a third party. A guarantor could be a market maker, could be anything, or could be another bank, or maybe another institution, guaranteeing this SISNA. So, based on this, when the SISNA comes back to the bank, it will say, well, we have a framework agreement. Now we have got a istisna hedge. It's here. And I need, let's say, 2.5 million reals in order to finance the production of this good. The bank will get into profit and loss sharing with the Sani. It could be musharaka or mudaraba. But the bank will now perceive that there is no risk here. It's not like the risky musharaka and mudaraba which are normally practiced by banks. Because this one is being hedged by the SNA. So the SNA acts only as a hedge. And that's why it's called SNA hedge musharaka or SNA hedge mudaraba or whatever. Okay? Now, for the bank, the SNA hedge looks very much like doing ijara or doing murabaha or anything. Because the bank is guaranteeing the return. But fortunately, it is a proper profit and risk sharing contract. All that's happening is that the SNA hedge is securing for the bank the return which is going to be provided out of this. So the bank is going to offer liquidity. And this is the crux of the matter. The bank is not going to get into the artificial contracts which are practiced nowadays. It's not going to get into the kind of fictitious and parallel this kind of practice nowadays. The bank is going to give liquidity as much as it needed. Liquidity to the Sani. The Sani will take the liquidity, whether it's small enterprise or big enterprise, doesn't really matter, because the bank will not look at the collateral. There's no point for the collateral here. The bank has got a hedge which covers the risk. So there's no need for collateral. There's no need for track record, anything. So long as there is a binding contract and there's a guarantor at the bottom of it, which guarantees it. So the ISMO will act as a catalyst, as if you want to call it, a catalyst to encourage Islamic banks to finance industrial activity without looking at the collateral and those things which are normally tied up with debt financing. This time, the financing is not based on debt. It's based on PLS. And therefore, what really matters is that the project is okay, the project is productive, and the SNA contract is being already just as a forward contract, as a hedge against the risk of musharaka and musara and musharaka and mudaraba, and a guarantor at the bottom is guaranteeing that. So this is SNA as an isolated product. When it gets into into the next stage of development, which is an organized market, this was also explained in my paper. Actually, unfortunately, I didn't explain it here. But the hub here is, let me go back to the slide before it. So the organized market version of ISMO. Now, this top, there's going to be a large number of producers and a large number of demanders of production, just like an input-output model into actual practice. People who are looking for the inputs that they need from other industries, and people who are producing those inputs to other industries, all coming together in one market. A lively input-output model consisting of producers and demanders of production. So this is what I'm visualizing as a market where this hedge will be generated. So the organized market will generate a large number of SNA hedges. Okay, those SNA hedges will be utilized by the banking sector in order to finance the industry. And in this case, the organized market will generate a continuous flow of SNA hedges for PLS financing against default. Okay. So this is the whole concept of organized market version of ISMO. Now, I want to utilize this concept in order to show how the new product, which I'm now also talking about later, which is ISHIN. ISHIN is a abbreviation for SNA hedge investment. Okay. Now, before talking about ISHIN, let me talk about how ISMO links to venture capital financing. The quick question about linking ISMO with VC financing is how the organized market version of ISMO can be suitably adapted to support venture capital financing of a balanced growth strategy. I think I defined what I mean balanced growth strategy. In the sense that we want as many enterprises as possible to exist in the economy, maybe hundreds of them, all emerging at the same time. standard processes of venture capital financing, except those dedicated to pave the way for the entry and exit out of specific deals. As I said previously, entry and exit, they characterize the strategy which is commonplace in America and Europe and maybe advanced Asian countries. These are. But we want to get out of this. We don't want to get into the process of formal entry and exit, because our objective is different. We just want to build core productive capacity in the country. We are not interested in entry and exit. This is the main point of departure between our model and the model which is practiced in the more developed countries. In other words, the objective of Asian is to generate a continuous flow of equity returns to all participants of the VC investment program. It emanates, it emanates from an ongoing volume of industrial, it emanates from ongoing volumes of industrial transactions among a growing number of SMEs being admitted to issuance organized market. In this way, let us see how it works. The proposed VC issuing program is going to utilize some of the properties which are already practiced in developed countries regarding venture capital financing, which are fundraising, deal generation, initial screening, due diligence and monitoring, but not the others. As you know, there are 4 others. There is the structuring. Structuring is not included here. There is syndication. Syndication is not included here. There is valuation. Also, valuation is not included here. And there's also exit. Exit is not included here. So in other words, I have curtailed the 9 processes which are adopted conventionally by venture capital financing to only 5 processes which are necessary and sufficient for the development of the VC issuing program I'm talking about. So this point characterizes fundraising of the VC issuing as an open-end investment program rather than a closed-end CVF. I think earlier when I was introducing CVF, I defined it as a closed-end. You know, CVF is a closed-end because money will get in, is going to spend maybe about 5 or 10 years and then get out after 5 or 10 years in the form of capital gains. But the model we are proposing here is an open-end. It's not closed-end. And that's why it does need syndication. And you don't have an entry price into a certain business to use it later on as an exit price. And you don't need structuring because you are not involving yourself into the management of the enterprise itself. But of course, you need monitoring. But monitoring is in a certain way, in a different way. Just to summarize what I've said so far is that the VC vision program is very much like the conventional programming, except that it does not use all the stages. It uses only 5 stages, and it also uses what we called earlier the Isatna Hedge Musharaka and the Isatna Hedge Musharaka. So it is linked with what I introduced earlier. So let's go to the next slide. So rather than being driven by the long-term prospect of capital gains attainable through successful IPOs of few firms, the VC issuing program will be motivated by other things. Okay? It will be motivated by 2 main things. First, an ongoing return prospect from well-structured open-end investment funds. Second, feeding from an ongoing flow of profitable industrial transactions. So these are the motive points for the VC issuing, which are very much different from those of the conventional venture capital financing. Right? Ongoing return prospect and ongoing flow of profitable industrial transactions. There is no entry, there is no exit. And this is going to fit very properly with the balanced growth strategy. So the 4 countries will have as many small firms as possible. They will all grow together at the same time. Maybe after 15, 20 years, the country will change, will develop into a well-developed industrial country. Okay. I think this program, this picture is going to explain the whole idea.
Let's
here, I know that you want to have time for discussion and dialogue, and that's why I'm running very fast. So first starts for productivity assessment test. The idea is in the due diligence stage, the program, the VC vision program, is going to have certain tests on certain entrepreneurs. If those entrepreneurs pass the test and they are okay, then they're going to get into this box here, which is past qualified entrepreneurs. If they get to this box, then they're going to shift to the ISMO organized market. I think I defined very quickly also what is meant by ISMO organized market. ISMO organized market is a market where the supply edge is being bought and sold by parties. So being qualified as an entrepreneur will allow you to get into the ISMO organized market. So once you get into that market, okay, this time I'm not having a bank like before. There is no bank. Here there is a certain program which is being mastered by the VC Asian organizers. That is the polygon in the middle. This polygon in the middle, which I'm calling VC Asian program. These are the organizers, the blue color. Okay, these organizers are taking care of the whole process. So the organizers, first of all, they are going to get subscriptions for the investors. The investors, as I said, are the maybe insurance companies, pension companies, banks, etc., etc. This cost is coming from the funds raising stage. So these subscriptions will flow next to the qualified entrepreneurs. This is the second point. In terms of financial assistance, as well as also advisory and technical support and so on and so forth for the entrepreneurs. So once these are qualified, this will pass to ISMO organized market. Now, the ISMO organized market will generate certain income. This income will flow to the VC Asian program, and this income will be partly used by the organizers themselves and partly passed on to the investors. So this process actually summarizes the whole idea of VC Asian program. Okay? I must admit that I'm not very good at talking too fast when I'm trying to explain a complicated idea in 10 or 15 minutes. But I was just doing my best to try to explain the idea. I wish it was possible to have 2 hours or so to explain the idea. But now, let me summarize the conclusion. So, VC Asian is an adapted version of ISMO to operate within a VC setup. Okay? Unlike VC financing, which nurtures SMEs till they become deliverable through IPOs, VC Asian offers an ongoing mechanism admitting more and more qualified SMEs. So this solution fits well with the balanced growth strategy of less developed countries. And thank you very much. If there are more questions, I'm going to ask any more questions. And perhaps for those who have read the article, this presentation could be quite ample, quite sufficient. But if someone hasn't read the article, of course I have been running very fast. And I wish I was able to communicate at least the essential point about this idea. Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور سيف على هذا العرض المميز. أشكركم على وقتكم وعلى جهدكم وعلى تغطيتكم لمكان الدكتور السحيباني وسفره للخارج اليوم لمهمة رسمية. دكتور، عرضك اليوم فكرني عندما كنت أشتغل مع مجموعة البركة. عندهم ما يطلق عليه الصناديق المفتوحة والصناديق المغلقة Open Funds and Closed Funds. ويبدو أنه الفكرة الرئيسية التي في الورقة اللي بتحاول أنك أنت تستخدمها للفينشر كابيتال وللبالانسد جروث تعتمد على أنه وجود ممولين عدا البنك يقوموا بالمخاطرة. طبعا النظام اللي كان في دلة أنه مقسمين رأس المال، وليكن رأس مال الصندوق مثلا 50 مليون دولار أو ريال، مقسمونه إلى حصص متساوية، ويأتي الشخص يشتري مثلا ب1000 أو 2000 أو 5، وله الحق الخروج في أي وقت، يسموها التخارج، له الحق الخروج في أي وقت من الاستثمار ويدخل غيره في فترات متتالية، وبالتالي يكون هناك رصيد من السيولة المالية الموجودة طول الوقت للعملية. يبدو أنه الفكرة الرئيسية التي استطعت أنه من قراءتي للشرائح هذه أن أوصل لها. لكن الآن أفتح المجال أمام الزملاء للأسئلة، وأبدأ من عند أخي الدكتور صالح.
شكرا دكتور إبراهيم، وشكرا للدكتور تاج الدين. I would like to thank you especially that your subject is trying.
اسمح لي فقط يفهم العربية، هو ممكن يتكلم بالعربي، فيكم تتكلم بالعربي إذا حبيت.
أنا ممكن أجاوب بالإنجليزي ولا عربي، ما مشكلة.
تفضل دكتور.
So I'm very interested in what in your subject because you are presenting a scheme to move from a debt-oriented financing to equity or say profit-loss sharing financing.
That's right.
This is very promising because the debt-oriented financing is a Me Too strategy for the Islamic finance industry, and it is time to move to much more deeper in our Islamic economic principles. I'm interested also in your subject because my thesis is in private equity, although my subject is in the Sharia side, is in the law side, and is addressing well-established small and medium enterprises, while you are more into the venture capital, maybe to the startup and the small and medium enterprises that have huge potential for development and so on. From my point of view, I'm very interested into the law side, into the fiqh side, تحقيق المنات, and so I'm very interested in reading your 2013 article, which I tried with some of my friends here to get it through, but they need, identifier and password and so on. So you would be very kind if you provide us with your 2013 article.
If you give your email address, brother Rahim.
Okay, I do that. I do that. I give it to Dr. Ibrahim. Now, I have two major questions, but maybe they will be a little bit fuzzy because the understanding is a little bit average. First one, in the venture capital scheme, normal scheme, American or whatever, conventional scheme, the investor gets the control of the company. So, if the but sufficiently that if the entrepreneur is not doing a good job, he get fired. He get fired and he will be changed and so on. So I would like to understand how in your scheme that happen or not happen. The second question, and I'm sorry, maybe it is obvious for those who read the 2013 your 2013 article, is that are you talking when you are talking about that contract between the صانع and the mustasna, are you talking about commercial contracts يعني sorry
تسمعنا يا دكتور؟
سامع
تفضل.
Are you talking about commercial contracts that more or less are long-term supply contracts? That is, you have a well-established company, the mustasna, that needs some kind of product, say packaging or whatever, and then the SANA has the project of producing the Tetra Pak packaging or whatever kind of packaging, and that would be the contract, that would be the hedger that you are talking about, or are you talking about something else? So these are the two questions, and thank you very much again.
Thank you. Regarding your first question,
دكتور ممكن نجمع الإجابة كلها في إجابة واحدة؟ الدكتور معصوم، بروفيسور معصوم بليز.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Saifuddin Tajuddin. After a long time that I am hearing the second presentation, and it is really an excellent presentation and your thought. I have a few queries, though maybe you are already incorporating those ideas, but then just for my own understanding, this model is something like hybrid actually, began with the debt financing, ending up with the equity financing. So now, this is quite unique thing actually, a unique model. Now, the risk factor...
How did you define it as hybrid? Where do you find the debt component here? Because I don't think it's hybrid. Okay, just carry on.
Anyway, you will respond to that. This is my understanding. Now, the financing is provided for the manufacturer, okay, for this arrangement. So that is the juncture where I consider that the debt financing, where the risk is undertaken by the manufacturer, not the investor. Now, it's ending up with the equity financing, whereby in a very traditional term, equity financing, whereby in the equity financing or the Modaraba Mosharaka arrangement, where the risk is being shared. But the Stisna contract, whereby the risk is undertaken, not shared by the manufacturer. That's how the clash actually, from my understanding, how you are going to harmonize in this matter as regard to the risk sharing or risk undertaking. Number one. Number two, here when you mention leads to a Mosharaka or Modaraba, fine. Now, do you mean is Mosharaka Mutanakisa or Mosharaka what? So that's not quite clear. Number three, the collateral, fine. You as the SME, because of there's another factor that when you record the collateral, then the low income group or the very small group will be deprived. Okay, so now it's fine. I agree. I totally agree. But then what happened? If there is any malpractice, because is it not that if we do not require the collateral, that there will not be the opening of the door for the manufacturer to adopt the malpractices? I mean here, if we are scared of that, can we just suggest the underlying asset or the project shall be considered or recognized as a collateral? Okay, number three. Number four here, guarantor. As you mentioned as a guarantor, now fine, guarantor is a third party, the innocent party in this particular transaction or the deal or the model. Now, how do you minimize the moral hazard? If moral hazard of the entrepreneur, how do you foresee? How do you minimize actually? And if in case there is a moral hazard, it will also go against the third party, I mean the guarantor. How you are going to compromise here? And in Islamic financial environment, whereby there is no unfair treatment or the unjust treatment can be acceptable. So this one we need a clarification. Then the number fifth is the debt and equity finance, as I discussed earlier in the first question. Now, the last question here. You mentioned in the slide number, the second last, I think, in the structure, where you mentioned the SPV, the blue in color. So now, do you mean that SPV should be an independent party or the clearing house, or it shall be from the bank itself? And to my humble understanding, it has to, because the bank or the finance group is providing the financing facilities, it has to be within the bank or within the financial, that particular industry, so that can have a fair judgment or the screening. And it could be called an screening authority or screening unit. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Excuse me, can you give me your name, please? I didn't get your name.
دكتور بروفيسور معصوم بالله.
أنا محسن بالله. Okay. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
I didn't get you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks
Okay.
for your good lecture.
Brother Ibrahim, would you allow me to answer the question now, because I have an appointment at 12:30.
We have two more questions. دكتور سامي
خلاص إذا هو عنده موعد خلاص.
I think I need to explain.
إذا عندك بعض الأسئلة أنت قولها. طيب اتفضل دكتور.
تفضل اشرح يعني.
إذا حبيت.
Okay, then I'm going to respond to the questions which have been just raised by your brothers. The first question is regarding the extent to which the venture capital financing will be involved into the business operations of individual firms, and the authorization that venture capital financial organizers may have in order to maybe to dismiss or to sack a CEO if it does not work properly and so on. The brother asked me how this fits with my model. It doesn't really fit. No, I said from the very beginning that I'm utilizing only 5 stages of venture capital financing. There are 4 main stages which I found them irrelevant for 2 reasons. They don't fit developing countries' needs. They don't fit within the balanced growth model which I'm adopting as a strategy for industrial development in the countries. So, although they are going to be monitoring, and although they are going to be financial assistance and so on and so forth by the patient, but they are not going to have ownership on the enterprise themselves. The entrepreneur will still be an owner of his own business, and they're not going to be any direct involvement into the day-to-day operations. And the VC vision program are not authorized to dismiss or to disqualify a CEO. Of course, they might, as a result of monitoring, they might send messages of warning or anything saying that this enterprise is going to be disqualified if it does not do so and so. Because we are only going to include qualified entrepreneurs into each organized market. The worst that can happen is to disqualify the company. But there is no way of dismissing without anything. Because our process does not involve getting into an enterprise and then getting out of it again. It's all about encouraging enterprises to develop and grow for themselves. And whatever comes out of them as profit will be shared by the Asian program. Regarding the Sani and Mustasna Agreement agreement, actually the Sani and Mustasna, they only have the fiqhi istisna as accepted by all schools of jurisprudence. It's not contract as usual, nothing different. Okay? Except that it has both financing into it. What they did is to purge if you like to do the purge, or maybe to clear out the istisna contract from financing. There is no financing into it at all. It's all like a forward contract. Okay? Between Sani and Mustasna. Okay? But being forward contract, being binding, having these properties, and of course they are all Sharia compliant, yeah? They are all Sharia compliant. Given these properties, then the bank will find that there is security in place, and therefore the bank should not worry about whether they're going to make profit or not. The profit will come eventually, because the contract is binding. So in other words, he's capitalizing on a Sharia compliant property. There's nothing wrong about it. Okay? The only thing is that financing is not done by the way of profit and loss sharing. Actually, this is the one trick of Ishmael. If you get that trick, then you've got the whole idea. Okay? Let's move to Brother Masoom. Brother Masoom, I think you have read for so many questions. write them down and send them to me, because actually these are the kind of questions which I really need to think about. But let me try to give you quick and maybe straightforward answer to some of the points regarding the hybrid thing, because you said there are hybrid. There's absolutely no hybrid thing here at all. Actually, I couldn't get your point about saying that there is a certain component of debt or here. Please let me know this point clearly, because my efforts have been devoted actually solely to try to present products which have got no debt element in at all. Okay. Actually, let me see whether I can answer some of the points here. Risk sharing, yeah. I think I've been talking about risk sharing, yeah. Risk sharing exists, but the only thing that we know about risk sharing is that if they get a guarantor, let's go back to basic concepts about from forward contracts. In forward contracts and future markets, for example, there's a clearance market. There's a clearance unit. It's called clearance. It could be a clearance company. It could be anything. But it's a clearance unit which exists within the forward contract, within the future contract, the future contract industry. So people get into future contracts. They don't see each other most often. One of them sells a future contract, the other buys it, and there is someone in the middle who is the rider will match the two parties, and there is the clearance house which is going to guarantee that this transaction eventually will be realized. Okay, there's something very much similar to this in the issue organized market. In the issue organized market, there's also this guarantor. This guarantor is just like a clearance unit. Okay, the clearance unit will make sure that the two parties, Sana and Mustafna, will achieve their objectives. No one is going to dishonor the contract, okay? And of course, there has to be an element of trust here. If they are qualified contracts, they have got good track record and so on. If they really want to benefit from this in the future, if you want to establish a name for themselves, if they don't want to be disqualified later on, there are so many incentives to let the entrepreneur work properly within the environment to respect the ethical codes and also the legal codes that are prevailing within it. So risk sharing actually takes a genuine course. It's not something artificial. And just like in the same way as happening in the future contract markets, why do people in the future contract markets always honor their contracts? Why should there be a third party to give his enhancement to that kind of, create enhancement to those relationships? It's because the process is going fine, doing well already, and the parties are committed to fulfill their objectives. And if they don't fulfill their objectives, there are going to be some penalties. They are going to suffer from those penalties. So the guarantor is, of course, has got his own techniques, his own ways to try to make sure that the parties will satisfy their objectives, either through penalties or legal litigation, through different ways. And of course, this is a big issue. Perhaps they didn't find time to talk about it. But at the end, it all boils down to the fact that there is a hedge, which is a sound contract. And this sound contract is quite reassuring to the financier. The financier feels that, well, this is reassuring. In the same way as in Murabaha, for example, you get the binding word from the buyer that is going to buy the goods. So Murabaha is also having lots of risk into it. But the structure of Murabaha, it has made it less risky for banks to do it. So similarly here, we are doing something very similar to what Islamic banks are doing, but without affecting the profit sharing properly, without affecting the fact that risk sharing will be done properly. So as far as I can see, there is no element of debt here. There is no element of hybrid debt here. It's not like, for example, preferred shares, which have got certain features of common stocks and features of bonds. No, I don't think it's like this. But please just write down your points. my answer that maybe does not really meet most of your queries, please write them down to me. I'm going to answer your concerns. And it's applies to everybody else. If I don't have time to answer all questions, please, Brother Ibrahim, invite all of us. And of course, I'm going to the very beneficiary on this. If they come right for me their concerns, and then I'll be responding to them, inshallah.
جزاك الله خير دكتور سيف. جزاك الله خير. I know that it is exams times and it is very very tight in your place, and you have to do a lot of things and finish your PhD dissertation supervision etc etc. جزاك الله خير. أشكرك على تغطية مكانة الدكتور السحباني. جزاك الله عنا كل خير، وإن شاء الله نشوفك بالخير بإذن الله.
شكرا.
تمام.